Hello, hello. It's another Thursday, and we are continuing with our entrepreneurship series. Exciting times. We'll begin shortly at 6 p.m. In the meantime, you can call your friends and anyone really. It's going to be a good conversation today, just like last week's was a good conversation. So let's do this. Hi, Tamuda. Can you hear me?
Yes. Hi, Busola. Glad to meet you today.
Welcome. Let's just give others a
Awesome.
few minutes. Thank you for coming to our Entrepreneurship Live series.
That's not a problem. It's an honor. Thanks for inviting me.
Oh, well. All right. Let's just wait and then I'll introduce you and we'll begin. I
Sure.
see people joining. Thank you all for coming. Let me just send some waves to everyone to acknowledge their presence. All right. Maybe one more minute and then we can start.
All right.
Hey, hope you're excited. You're ready to share
Of
this
course,
evening.
of course, yeah.
Great.
How's things going your side?
Good. Great.
Awesome. Awesome.
All right. I think we can begin so that we can finish on time.
All right.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another, it's not episode, but welcome to this week's edition of entrepreneurial discussions with different entrepreneurs. This week we have Tamuda with us, and we're excited to share. Last week was really fun, so I'm really excited about this week as well. And the conversation, if you missed last week's episode, please check it out. It's on our page. We were speaking about resilience in the place of entrepreneurship for entrepreneurs, basically. And we had a seasoned entrepreneur, a serial entrepreneur and seasoned, who had failed a number of times, just share a story. But today we're going to be looking at it from the lens of a young person, and we have with us Tamuda with all the way from Zimbabwe, but living in South Africa, sharing his journey, why he decided to become an entrepreneur, what that has been like for him, and just some more questions, really. Cool. So maybe Tamuda should actually introduce himself rather than me doing the introduction. So over to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Busola, that you've said most about me. I am from Zimbabwe, but I'm currently based in South Africa at African Leadership Academy. And yeah, I'm just a passionate entrepreneur with deep passion for robotics and artificial intelligence. So I've just been spending much of my life learning and finding how I can get my place involved in that field.
Great fun. I'm sure robotics and artificial intelligence probably got more young people picked at that. So great. Let's just talk about your entrepreneurship journey. What has that been? The smooth and rough spots? Any? Why did you even end up in entrepreneurship? Maybe we could begin with that.
That's an interesting question. I can say that I actually got into, I didn't directly get into entrepreneurship. I started with problem solving. I just had a passion for problem solving. I'll tell you a story of how this started, right? When I was a kid, I used to break stuff, and my mom was always on my case for breaking home appliances, and she would beat me a lot for doing that. But I actually never stopped, and she got to a point where she really just gave up on me because I had that curiosity to find out what made the remote light, what made this move. So even if she bought me toys, I'd break them apart to just find out what's happening inside. So one of the days I broke my dad's radio, and that really just pissed him off because it was his favorite piece in the house. Because that's when he sat down with me and gave me a whole 1 hour lecture about why I should not break stuff and why it's bad. But from that whole 1 hour lecture, one thing I got from him is that instead of being a breaker, why don't you be a maker and be the one to fix things and make your own stuff instead of breaking things that other people are making, right? And that touched me. And to this day, I just look back and sort of get the motivation from his speech that day. And so I just started making stuff and building, innovating, just building really crazy, silly things and show my friends at school. And just fast forward it, I later learned that I can commercialize this, right? Instead of just making for fun and taking money out of my pocket every time, I can use this to solve problems and commercialize it. I think that's how I got myself into entrepreneurship, and here I am today.
Great. That's a very good story. You should make sure you keep it to right and share that speech every time you see him. All right. So, what has the journey been like? Basically, any rough edges? Any has it been smooth? Switching from just inventing stuff to actually trying to commercialize. What's that been like?
Yeah, it's never really easy, and I'll tell you what, no one really gets this thing right on the dot. It comes with a lot of failures and roughs and just a lot of things to topple you down. But it's if you are really passionate about it, then you'll always find a reason to continue with it. Because much of it has been failures more than successes. I can't even count the number of failures. I started with silly projects like selling hoodies, or I at some point I'll tell you this one. It's really funny that I decided to start a bowl business, a bowl drilling business, because I realized that it's a money making business in my country, and then I just decided to hop onto it as naive without any knowledge prior, and of course it didn't
Yeah,
work out. I just left out along the way. But yeah, it was never easy, but just finding my purpose. And if you have got a reason to work on something, really whatever comes your way, you should it should not stop you. And that's why I'm still here and working hard towards achieving my goals.
great. Thank you so much. What is this bottle story, by the way? Like bottles, like water bottles, or which one?
or drilling bores and installing bores in houses and stuff like that.
Did you do any research, or you just thought, oh, if others can do it, why not me too?
Yeah, if I'm just seeing people around making money out of it and really really quick, I thought I was able to design posters and stuff like that real quick and make like insane adverts around it. So I thought, oh, that's all you needed, right, to be a business, to be a
Yeah.
success. You just need to market it well. But there was a lot to learn that I didn't realize at that stage.
No, that's good to know. Well, there's always something to learn. So, the next question is, what have you been able to achieve so far? Like, apart from the things that didn't go wrong, I'm sure a few things have gone right. So, would you mind sharing to inspire someone out there listening?
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. Uh, my team and I developed the Book of Everything. This is a hardware solution that's aimed at improving access to education in Africa, because when the world moved to remote learning and schools started learning online and all those things, there was a lot of disadvantaged students that could not learn because they could not afford the internet, or they had no internet coverage at all in their societies. So we were looking for a way to allow these people to learn and improve access to education, really, because it's said that for the past 2 years, as the world has been in lockdown, these students have not been able to learn. So we developed the Book of Everything. It's a hardware solution which students only need to connect to the book in order to learn, and they get access to tons of educational resources packed up within the Book of Everything, and they can learn from their communities and without internet. So we are making it cheaper and radically available to everyone really who had been disadvantaged by this situation. That is one of the things that actually worked out well, because we solved a real problem, and we got funding to actually start to build and develop this Book of Everything and make sure that it's out in the market. That's the first thing. The second, which I'm most excited about, is a small startup that I started with my friend. It's called Dot. We are trying to breed financial inclusion in Africa, because one of the greatest problems in Africa is the ability to transact. People do not have the ability to transact, especially in my country. If you have got Zimbabwean dollars, you're not able to use them outside of Zimbabwe. So we wanted to allow people to be able to buy stuff, transact, pay for services online with the currency at their fingertips. So we've been building this, iterating it for the past 3 months, and brainstorming, concepting how we can really solve this problem for uh, countries that are most affected here in Africa. And we will be pitching this idea to a World Bank group coming on campus next week, which we are really excited but also scared, because we're just a bunch of kids, right? And we are up against companies like Flutterwave, unicorns who've been in this field, who've got insane experience. They've been working towards these things for years now. And it's just two young kids trying to make a change. Let's hope it works out well. But
Well,
yeah,
never give power to young people or any person really. Thank you for sharing about Dots and Lights, the book of everything. We're looking forward to that's a very practical. I think the two problems that you're seeking to solve are very practical problems and necessary. So, would you say that your entrepreneurship has been born out of observing problems around you and seeking to solve them, or is it driven by the desire to just make money or make a name for myself? Like, what drives your journey, or what drives you as an entrepreneur?
that's actually a good question. And at first, when I got into entrepreneurship, I'll be honest with you, I was in it to make money, and nothing worked out. But with this other approach to solve a problem, when you have a real problem that you're trying to solve, you will always get a market. Uh, so yeah, I'm more in it now to solve the problems, and I'm more interested in seeing these students being able to learn and seeing Africans being able to transact without any limits. that is what's driving me. So yeah, I'm in it to solve the problem more than making money and bring value to the consumers.
That's good to know. Great. And there's so many people, like obviously that we've seen in the world, that have taken that approach, and they're making their millions. So I think with the right structure, framework, getting the feedback as you're doing now, putting in the work, would see the results very soon. As they say in my country, remember me when you ama. So the next question is, your student, as you introduced yourself earlier. So how do you juggle with entrepreneurship? Has it been easy? What are your tips for those that currently students will feel like, oh, I need to wait till I graduate, or when I'm done with college or uni before I start thinking around entrepreneurship? What would you say to that from your experience, or what tips do you have for them?
Well, I'll answer your first question, how it's been for me as a student and trying to balance between school and these startups. It's been tough, to be honest, because school can be so demanding, and you've got assignments to work on, assessments, tests to study for. So you lose the balance if you're not really focused. But I try to dedicate at least an hour a day and to make sure that uh, I have objectives, right, for my startups and for school. So I have to dedicate an hour a day for these startups and make sure that we're actually doing real work and achieving our goals. And one thing that I also try to do is to take less responsibilities, because as you get known to be someone committed in your field, you're good at what you do, a lot of responsibilities will start to come to you and a lot of offers, right? And you have to turn down some of them so that you can have time for yourself, have time for the work that you're trying to do, right? And actually dedicate the time to building your startups rather than just working around on things that do not add value to your goal. So yeah, it's actually being clear on what I want to do, and everything else that's not adding up, I have to take it out because time is limited around here. Um, that is how I'm able to manage between school and my startups. Your second question was about advice to young people who want to get into entrepreneurship and who may feel like maybe it's too early to start a company, right? I think it's never too early or it's too late to be whoever you want to be. It's always the right time, um, and I feel like you're almost always in the right space to start something up. So I would say, yeah, follow your heart, right? If whatever dream, whatever goal, whatever company you want to start up, take it on and get off the terraces and start doing real work. Um, and one thing that's in business that sort of differentiates school from business is that in school they applaud sophisticated people who are able to explain stuff in a really sophisticated way, people who use hard concepts and things that not everyone else is able to understand. In business, simplicity always wins, right? If you just need to solve a problem the most simple way you can and get something into the market, the simplest version. I think you've said this to me before as well. Get the simplest version of your product into the market, because uh, everyone can theorize, everyone can come up with amazing ideas, right, on how to solve problems around us. But what really differentiates entrepreneurs, icons from everyone else is
Mm-hmm.
the ability to actually do the actual work, action bias,
Yeah.
moving pieces, right? Because, well, it's easy to just get a pen and write your ideas down on paper and come up with an amazing plan. But the money goes to the person who actually gets into the field to do something. So I think my advice to you would be get into the field and actually uh, do something about it, right? Launch a product, the simplest version, because that's how you start learning. You never really learn while theorizing. You can talk to customers, potential customers. You can get people's opinions, but you can actually get the only real evidence you can get is from launching your product. So yeah, get something into the market. And surrounding yourself with positive people, people who inspire you, people you want to grow up to be like, people you are trying to emulate, right, is something that really has helped me in my entrepreneurship journey, because um, I've got my brother who supports me a lot, and he sends me books that I need to read. Okay, reading books also helps, and
Okay.
studying these people who have made it before, and sort of trying to conceptualize your way from the way they have made it out, right? I'll tell you, on my phone, the two most used applications that I have would be LinkedIn and Pinterest, because that's where I get most of my inspiration from. LinkedIn, you're
Mhm.
always seeing people posting their achievements. I've done this, I've graduated, I've gotten a promotion. And for someone, it might be like bragging, but for me, it's motivation to be like them. And if I come across someone who's achieved something in a related field, I get inspired and I take it down. 2 weeks down the line, I might come across a problem that someone else has solved. And because I've come across something like that before, it helps me as I ideate as well to come up with newer ways of solving these problems. And I'm a designer, I'm a graphics designer, and I'm trying to learn animation and all those things. Pinterest, I get amazing ideas from other graphics designers, and it just keeps you in track, keeps you when you just open Pinterest and start seeing the other amazing things that people are trying to develop, and you feel really inferior if you come across something that, well, you're not able to do. And it pushes me to learn, right, to find ways so that I too can be able to do something like that. That would be my best advice to young entrepreneurs out there. So follow your heart, get into the field, put something into the market, and you can only learn once you're in the field. Surround yourself with people who you want to grow up to be like.
Yeah, those are very good and profound words. And I think the last one around like skills, building skills and people that can, and surrounding yourself with like resources that can help you build those skills are very important, because you don't want to be a mediocre entrepreneur. You want to keep growing and becoming better, and skill development is very important. So whether it's in being able to pitch your idea, or in building the actual product, or in delivering a quality service all the time, there's like so much to learn as an entrepreneur. You can't just stop and say, oh, I'm an inventor. So maybe now you need to be able to sell that product. So you need to learn marketing, or you need to learn branding. There's
For
always one
sure.
thing or
Yeah.
the other. Top of it is important. Okay, thank you for sharing all of that. Um, have you found, you mentioned your brother already, so I think this question kind of already lends to that, like the place of external support. Because many people say, oh, when I'm young, people won't take me seriously. So, how has external support, or what support structures have driven or fired you for this journey so far?
That's really, I had forgotten to say this, but it's really been an important part of my successes so far, having people around you who support and uplift you, believe in your mission and the work that you're trying to do, right? Um, Besides my family and my coaches, as you, one of my coaches, um, I think having a wide array of advisors. I try to network a lot wherever I go, whatever events I attend, and sort of get uh, all these people that have experience in the field to advise me as I try to get on my journey as well. So having advisors from uh, Mackenzie, Microsoft, people that keep me accountable, right? Having calls maybe weekly or bi-weekly and reporting my progress on whatever I'm working on. So those support structures keep me in check and keep me grounded on the work that I'm trying to do. And if there's something that I'm confused about, chances are they've faced something like that before. So yeah, I get inspired by them. I get feedback on whatever I'm working on, and having their leveraging on their experience is a key thing that's been driving me as well.
Great. So, people can find the support structures from networking and I think you also talked about, yeah, networking everywhere you go. So networking doesn't come easily to people. People are like, oh, I'm shy. What is your tip for being a good networker? Do you just send cold emails or what do you do, basically?
Well, that's a tough question because there's not really a generic way which works for everyone, and not all of these emails or connection requests that I send are accepted. But it's not. I don't believe in cold emailing people and just sending out an email before having a prior engagement before. But um, you must have a reason and actual things that you are looking for, because what these people don't want is people who are always just asking for favors, because they somehow have this idea that people just want money or jobs, and advice is something that you can just give for free, right? At least for most people. So engage with your content. If it's LinkedIn, I normally use LinkedIn. I engage with your content and ask follow-up questions. That's how you can start, right? You have a follow-up question from maybe an article they have written, and
Mm-hmm.
that's how you can start engaging. You now want to learn more, and maybe you ask to have a coffee chat with them and um, sort of discuss these things that they are doing, and from then on you can ask to meet frequently and share your story as well, and where your passions align. That's
Yeah.
how most of my connections. And if it's a live event, get to them, ask about them. I'll tell you what, people love talking about themselves, so be a good listener and ask them about how they are, what they are currently involved in, what they specialize in, and
Mm-hmm.
listen as they speak. Ask follow-up questions in the work that they are doing, and share your story as well. Ask for help. Have specific questions and specific areas that you would need help in. If it's
Yeah.
a someone in finances, for example, I'm working on a startup in finances. There's a part of my business model I'm trying to figure out. I would ask a specific question: how can I solve this problem that I have with the project I'm trying to work on? And that's how you can start it. In that's how at least I do it in most of the times.
Great. Those are very good tips for anyone really at work. Bring value to the table is what I would say, and don't be like a pest, but know clearly what you want, like you rightly mentioned, and be okay to ask people. And like you mentioned, show interest in so that that can also show that you're not just accused, but you've done your research. So, oh, I read this about you the other day. Oh, I saw that you created, and I'm working on something similar. What tips can you give? Can you point me in the right direction? Have a clear goal in mind. And when you can support them, like do it, because people are also drawn to people that they can see that, oh, you're not just here, pest, or what's that biological term? Someone that always takes, but you're here for a symbiotic relationship. Yeah. Okay.
For sure.
Questions, thank you for staying and watching so far. Please send it through. You can type it up in the comments and we'll respond to it as we go through. I think we are almost at the end of our own comments and questions. So if you have anything you'd like Tamuda to share or expand on, please asking in the comments. So my next question is, you talked about ideation, books you're reading, and all of that. What are the key skills that someone needs to start a business as a young person? What should they be seeking to put together? Many people think starting an entrepreneurship is about money, but in your experience, what would you say? What should be in their skill set, in their toolbox as they go about starting the business?
Sorry, can you repeat your last sentence? I lost you for a bit.
No, I
Network
said
is quite.
the toolbox of an aspiring entrepreneur as they seek to start out.
Um, I think these are two different things here. There's maybe toolbox and skills. What I think is you don't need any special skills to be able to start a business. You don't need to have any special talents or any form of genes to start a business. I think what you just need is an idea, a real problem that you're trying to solve, an invention, or maybe it's something just for luxury that you're trying to put into the market, and have a layout of how you want to do it. And as I said before, the important thing is getting work done and putting something into the market. So I feel like you don't need a skill really. The idea and the business plan. How are you going to achieve your your goal? How are you going to? How do you plan on launching it, right? And they call them OKRs, objectives and key results, right? You want to have objectives of the things that you're trying to achieve. I want to launch a company that maybe sells toothpaste that makes teeth whiter, and that's your objective. How are you going to do it? What's your key results? By and your key results should be actionable. They should be smart. I forgot the actual meaning of, because each word has got a meaning, right? Smart, and they should be bound by. They should have a time limit, right? By at the end of this week, I should have done this. I should have accomplished this, and resources. Maybe that's more of what you would need, of the actual documents you can use that can help and guide you as you're trying to launch your business. So one of the most used documents is a business model. A business model almost always has the things that you starting your project or your business, right? Because it has the value proposition, which is something that you're trying to bring into the market. What value are you bringing into the market? The customer segments. Who are you? Who's going to buy this, and who are your customers and your partners? Cost structures. It has almost everything that you need, and other documents which I'll be glad to share with you that have been instrumental in my ideation and brainstorming, and from the point I come up with an idea to actually launching a business. Because one of the biggest challenges I had as an entrepreneur and learning as well is getting from the point I get an idea to actually launching the business. Because I tell you, I've come up with dozens and dozens of ideas that I've just lost, and it hurts to finally see another organization working on the same project which you put aside because, well, you thought you could not do it, or you just lost the motivation. Because I tell you, the motivation you have when you're beginning, and as you work towards it, it depletes. You run out of motivation. It's almost like a curve, and you have to find it again and get back on track, and continue pushing for things to somehow work out. So yeah, no special skills are needed. The tools, maybe that's more of what you would need. BMC and a lot of reading really to learn how they do it in Silicon Valley, because that's like the tech hub and the place of the most blockbuster companies. So you want to also find out how they are building the methodologies they use in building the blockbuster companies there in Silicon, and you can find ways to apply the same methods on a smaller scale on whatever you're trying to work on. Because if it worked for them and you move your pieces well, it should also work for you.
Hmm. Now that you mentioned Silicon Valley, I think my next question kind of tied to how do we solve African problems using African approaches? Yes, we learn from Silicon Valley, like someone that is not techie, for example, watching this, just like you just maybe threw in the you're like, oh wait, so now I need to go and learn tech. But I feel like you can start a business, even if yeah, technology does the job of actually accelerating the impact and the time frame of maybe implementing or even scale of what we can do. But I don't necessarily have to have all that, which you said you don't need skill set, right? I just need to know where and how to connect with these things and be open minded to adapting technology because it plays a key role in the world we are. But I feel like Africa needs our young people to start creating African based solutions that actually looks at the lens of the community or the people that we're serving. Because people that Silicon Valley is serving, like sometimes I'm Googling stuff and reading things, and I'm like, people can sell just about anything in America and you'd make
For sure.
money. But continent, we need to be conscious and aware of the economic environment. But there's still so much value to be generated here. So how do we find that balance? Might be something to think about. So if you have any thoughts on that, I'd like to hear it.
Well, what I was saying when I talked about Silicon Valley is learning from how they are doing it and not just picking the problems they are solving and applying the same solutions here in Africa. That one won't work, not at all. Because the problems we are experiencing and the problems they are experiencing are two different things. So, one thing is to be able to identify a problem that Africans are solving. And the most pressing problems here in Africa right now are accessibility and financial inclusion because as the world has been advancing, Africa has not been moving at the same pace, and we have a lot of unbanked people, unbanked Africans. In fact, I lost the statistics, but the numbers are insane of the people that do not have bank accounts in Africa. So you want to be able to identify the problems that are native to Africa and
It looks like we lost you. Are you still there? Hello? Hello, Tamuda? Okay, looks like his internet went off. Um, let's hope he's able to reconnect soon. Oh, he's gone. But just okay, 1 second. I think it's messaging. Oh, his phone went off. Okay. I hope he's able to reconnect and then we can continue. Otherwise, we'll have to pick this conversation up another time. Let me just check in. Okay, so we'll be back in like 2 minutes and then we can continue. In the meantime, anyone that has any questions or comments on what has been shared so far, please don't hesitate to drop them in the comment section and we can interact here. You can also just share where you're joining from, any highlights of whatever you've heard or learned so far in the conversation. You can share in the comments. And I will just play music in the background. All right, Tamuda will be back shortly. Do enjoy the break in transmission. Okay, you are back.
Sorry, Basola, I lost connection.
We were having it's fine. Welcome back. Yeah, where were we? I can't remember what we were, what I was asking. I think you were sharing, right? If you remember what you were sharing before the
I think I was talking about solving African problems. You had asked about how to solve African problems using African approaches, and
from Silicon Valley. Yeah.
yeah, and we were just trying to identify the problems that are the most critical problems in Africa. Could be poverty, and well, we have things to do with financial inclusion, access to health facilities, quality health facilities, and how to feed this growing population, because Africa is growing at an insane rate, but our production is not equal to the amount. We are not able to feed the growing population. So these are some of the problems that we have to be able to solve in Africa, and opportunities in agriculture and in the health sector and education. How can we improve our learning methods and move from these conventional old methods of using textbooks in class and sort of adjusting to the changing world, right? And but really, we want people who are able to create employment, people who are able to start things, which is why we are here, right? To talk about entrepreneurship, people who are able to actually build things from ground up and have a lot more people joining and creating employment, because well, the numbers of people that are at home with degrees is it's scary, and it's disappointing to hear that we are not doing well as Africa at creating employment. And we have a lot of people learning, but once you have the qualification, you cannot really do anything about it. So I would blame the education system for that, for not really being able to teach us how to solve problems, but just be restricted to whatever we learn in class and not being able to think outside the box. Yeah, that would be my response to your question. I hope I've answered it well.
Yeah, I think you just raised another key point for me around the work that we do at Stirring for Greatness Foundation. And our job is to decentralize access to this relevant and quality education that empowers young people to be problem solvers, change makers, and basically Africans to solve Africa's problems. My question is, what would be your advice to a system organization like ours to actually help, because we're not in the schools, we're not in formal school, Our job is to complement or bridge the gap or decentralize. We're using different approaches. So, what would you say is something that maybe young people like would like to see or would need help with that we can also consider putting into practice or building more content or resources or connections for this people? What kind of support? Because we want to see more young Africans not just taking up entrepreneurship. I don't believe every entrepreneur, but like just being problem solvers and having that entrepreneurial mindset. So whether they're working for someone else in the future, but they can you can know you can be an entrepreneur. You can create jobs even within an organization because you can go and speak to your boss one day and say, "I see an opportunity there that help us grow as a hire more people and young people that I know that can come on board." So there's so much that we can do as a people. So maybe if you have tips, we would like to hear.
Well, in terms of bridging the gap between what schools are currently offering now and what the world needs, what I think is critical is the what we need as students and to be able to stay relevant and thrive in this ever-changing world, because really the world is changing rapidly. What could have been in the market tomorrow will not be the same thing that's going to be working. What could have been in the market yesterday will not be the same thing working tomorrow. So the ability to adjust with the changing world and be able to continuously thrive in whatever circumstances, right, is something that is critical, a skill that we should be able to learn as youths and the next generation of change makers. Um, so I'd say the ability to learn how to learn, whether technology changes, whether it becomes good, bad, learning how to learn and adjust with the ever-changing system is a skill that is necessary and will allow us to thrive in this changing world. So I feel like if you are able to come up with methods to teach students how to adjust and find their place in an actual real world setup, how teach them where they can apply the things they are learning at school, because application is important, right? Passing an exam is one thing, but what's important is being able to apply what you're learning in school. So giving them, maybe it could be problems to solve, helping them, supporting them with the projects they are working on. And I'm a huge believer of practicality and not just working on theory, which is something that is really flawed with our current education systems in Africa. So focusing more on the practical side of it and how we can apply how it is relevant in Africa, and focusing on things that are relevant in Africa and not out of the world concepts that goodness knows where we will apply them as we grow. Um, I think if we're able to do that and teach them critical thinking, problem solving, um, starting business, entrepreneurship, thinking outside of the box, learning how to learn, those are things that I can think of which you could incorporate within your program to bridge the gap that is being created by the current education system.
Sounds good. Sounds good because we're not off track in about it and the work that we're doing, but definitely really believe in practical education, experiential learning, as we call it. And because I believe it's a powerful tool, because even like this Benjamin Franklin quote that says, "You can tell me, you can involve me, but there's something about just involving me that will make learning stick." I'm sure I've killed the quote, but something along those lines. Not enough to just tell,
Yeah.
but involve me actually, and my learning will be solidified. So yeah, final question from my anyone question, please again feel free to share. Type it in the comments. I My last question has to do with actually starting businesses with friends or with classmates. What is your take on that? What has your experience been? Any tips for people? Do I have to go into business with my friend? If I do, what should I be aware of that would make this a successful enterprise? And if I don't, what should be the criteria? I think the question would be, what are the criteria for choosing a co-founder or someone to start a business with?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question and something that messes up a lot of companies, whether you should start a business with friends, family, or people you do not know. The bad thing with starting a business with friends or family is because, well, you might prioritize your relationship over business and you're not really able to open up on some things because, well, she's my best friend, or, well, it's my aunt, right, that I'm working with. That is a disadvantage of working with friends and family. Disadvantage of working with someone you do not know, but is you don't really know them, right? Of course. And you might have challenges working with them because of different cultures and different ways of operating. It's really hard to pick the best choice to take in this case, but I think you should your criteria of picking a co-founder should be based on the things that you want to achieve as a company, right? So it's not really about, yeah, that being that person being your friend, but the skills that they have, the things that they are bringing on the table, because that's what's most important as we are building a company, right? We want someone who's got a deep understanding of finances and investment banking. You don't want to pick someone just because they are your best friend while you're leaving someone who's got experience in the field. So I think it should be based on merit and less of relationship, and someone who believes in the mission, which is something that is key as you're building a company, because you don't want to work with people who are just there maybe for the money or for the name, but people who believe in the mission, who actually put the work in fulfilling the objectives of the company. That is something that's a problem we have experienced building our own company, our startup, because we at some point took people we thought they were skilled but did not believe in the work that we were doing. At least they did not own the mission. And we had a problem working with these people. And because DOT, as I told you, a startup we worked on, stands for doing odd things. So part of doing odd things is doing hard things and things that, well, normal people would really not do. And we wanted people with the bravery to do those things, right? And people who have the same mindset and would be able to adapt to our culture. So I think if you are looking for a co-founder, you must have specific things that you want to be done in the company and the culture and established culture. You want people who could at least relate with you, because it would be hard to build a company when the co-founders themselves are not agreeing on a particular thing. So yeah, I believe that makes I hope that makes sense.
Yes, it does. That's very important. And I think from like experience, I've also seen the role of having the same vision, and not necessarily they don't have to be a friend. Like if you both actually are sold out to a cause, you build friendship, because obviously you don't want to work with someone that you don't have a good relationship with. And
Exactly, exactly.
so it's important that you choose based on merits, based on where we're going, you agree on what that looks like. What does success look like for you? Because if you're like, success for me is 1 billion customers, and success for the other, or 10, 100 change lives, then there'll be a problem, because once we probably eat that goal, the person won't do more. So also someone that can drive initiative. So if you're not there, the business is not going to die. And I think it's also important as an entrepreneur to not get so in love with your idea that if, when you bring somebody on board and they're a dissenting voice, you feel like they're not, because you also need that another worldview. That's why you brought them anyway. They're not like you. You don't want your carbon copy. Otherwise,
Of course, yeah.
so that's something worth remembering. I think we've had good questions, good responses from your hand. If you have any final words, and if anyone has a question, don't be shy. Type it up. Ask.
Yeah,
Last
I
over.
want to add on what you were saying about with what were you talking about? Having a good relationship and working with someone who believes in what you're doing. But my point there is, let me just give me a moment to just retrieve it. Just got off.
It's fine. Take your time.
It's growing up memory.
Don't worry. Take your time. Come back. Don't force it.
Sure, sure. You know what? Let's leave it.
Hey, maybe when you start sharing your facts, you'd remember. So you can do that.
Um, yeah, sure. Thanks to everyone who joined, and thank you, Busola, for inviting me for this chat with you. I really had a great time, and well, to everyone else watching this, um, do hard things, right? And do things that you love, because what's more important is your passion, right? And the drive and your motivation to do things. So continue working at it. If it's not working, find out how you can fix things, how you can adjust rather than giving up, and get back into the field. Launch something real quick. You don't need a lot of money to start a business, really. Find out what you can do with the little that you have. Find out the simplest version, minimum viable product, they call it. The simplest thing that you can put out into the market with the little that you have, and start working at it from there. All these billion-dollar companies that we see do not start as unicorns. They did not start as established companies. They started from somewhere, right? From down there. Amazon, for example, they started with just selling books right in a garage, and today one of the Fortune 100 companies. So it all starts from somewhere. It all starts with the first step. So yeah, if you're working towards something, take the first step and launch something. Start learning. You only start learning once you have something that's running. Once you have something that is in the market. You can only learn so much from reading books and just theorizing without actually moving the pieces. You must be biased towards acting. I call it action bias. So focus more on working and moving pieces rather than theorizing and just spending time ideating and putting concepts down on paper. Yeah, and follow your heart. Don't listen to people who always have things to say about what you're working on. And much of the things they have to say really just defines their limits and not your limits. They might not really believe what you're trying to work on, but if you believe in what you're working on, continue at it. I tell you, when I was trying to work on these startups, there was a lot of people who thought, you know what, this is not a problem that exists, or some saying this is not going to work out. But they got surprised, right, as we started having traction and having a lot of serving a lot of customers and actually growing at insane rates. So the only real evidence or opinion you can trust is the opinion you get from the market and not just people's opinions, because you always get criticism and people who oppose what you're trying to work on. So yeah, keep at it. Follow your heart. Don't let naysayers and the noise of people's opinions stop what you're trying to work on. That
Definitely.
would be to anyone else watching.
Thank you so much. Those are very important words for everyone to remember, regardless of whether you're going into full entrepreneurship or it's a side hustle. Just do your best, do things, solve problems, and get out of the building. In summary, thank you so much, Tamuda, for joining us. Thank you to everyone that logged in, those that will watch later. We hope you enjoyed this. If you have questions, I'm sure you can reach Tamuda as well directly on Instagram if you would like to connect in and stay on the space. Well, follow us if you're not yet doing that, as we bring you more engaging content focused on young people. And I saw Mike left a comment about the hiring thing. He said it's important to hire someone who is self-disciplined and doesn't focus on motivation to get work done. Very,
Awesome, awesome. I think what Mike is saying is really true. Yeah.
yeah. Great. Thank you, Martinia.
Awesome.
Bye, everyone. Thank you, Tamuda.
Thanks. Thanks for
Enjoy your
swallowing.
evening.
Same to you.